So step one is you need a research question. Okay, so you just want to, you're going to have a research question already for your dissertation or for a research study you're doing after you graduate or something on a research team. But for an example for us to use, does religiosity have an effect on forgiving, right? So we need to go find a bunch of studies, but that's going to be next. First step one is just to formulate a research question. And you want to do this wisely. You want to make sure you define each of your variables very clearly. Religiosity, what's that? Religious commitment, religious behavior, religious values, religious emotions, God image. What's going to be included in religiosity? And as you do the literature review, you're going to need to continue to go back to your research question and determine, does this study fit my research question, or is it really too far afield? It is not really studying religiosity. It's really studying religious identification only, religious identity only, and I'm not studying religious identity because I defined religiosity from the outset as religious behaviors, commitments, beliefs, and feelings or something. Feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. So because this thing doesn't fit that, then I'm not going to include that study in my research. If you're sloppy here, you can really run into trouble because you could end up including research studies that are like apples and oranges. They really are studying different things. Maybe one thing is studying God image and one thing is studying religious behavior. Maybe those really are very different things and they shouldn't be lobbed together. And their ability to predict forgiving, for instance. And then even forgiveness, making sure you define forgiveness really clearly, really succinctly. You know exactly what it is, what it's not. Doesn't just include apologies. Isn't reconciliation. Throw out studies right out that aren't part of that. Another question you might ask is, does therapy type X work? Is it effective? And so you need to, again, even within therapy type X, there are a lot of therapies with different names that are really similar. So if you're calling it cognitive behavioral therapy, are you going to include behavioral therapy that has a cognitive component to it? What about rational emotive therapy that has a lot of CBT components to it as well? Where are you at with all that? So you need to define things really well. And then you want to specify the domain in each of these questions. Now I want to introduce you to something called the file drawer problem. This is a fabulous problem to understand whenever you're understanding research in general, and that is whenever you do a research study, there are, and I have them right over there, I will point to my file drawer right over here. Right, see that file drawer right there? This file drawer right here has within it several research studies that have never been published. Those research studies may never be published. Maybe I just never got around to finishing them. That does happen once in a while. Maybe, once every few years or whatever, there's a research study. It just never gets out. Maybe it was a small study. It was somebody's dissertation, and because the person who did the dissertation never finished it, they never published it. It's sitting in a file drawer somewhere. Add to that, in your research, when looking at all of this, all the research studies that I've ever done where we got no results and the answer was not significantly different, guess what the chances are of getting published with non-significant results? They're very small. So you want to be thinking in terms of maybe whenever we are looking at our research question, we're only going to be able to get our hands on a certain true percentage of the research that exists out there. What if there's 25 studies with non-significant results all sitting in a file drawer somewhere and only 5 studies with significant results that actually got published? Now we have a big problem because it may actually be that our thing does not actually work. This therapy doesn't actually work. Or this IV does not actually affect this DV. But because people who had non-significant results didn't publish them, we'll never know. And we're stuck with that problem.